So hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and I'm just here at the Udagoda Kuti near the village of Bondakyaya, and thought to record a short Dhamma discussion for the internet. So I thought I could start with a little meditation, so I can lean forward a bit and arch the spine, and look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And can focus in on the breath. Can know when it's coming in, and know when it's going out. If we breathe in a long breath, you can just know I'm breathing in a long breath. And if we breathe in a short breath, you can just know I'm breathing in a short breath. And can focus in on the breath at the tip of the nose. And when watching the breath at the tip of the nose, it can be good to make mindfulness as continuous as possible, being aware all the way through the in-breath. As the in-breath turns to the out-breath, all the way through the out-breath, and as the out-breath turns back to the in-breath again. Trying to make mindfulness as continuous as possible. And can just pose the question in one's mind, what would be a really comfortable way to breathe right now? And then one can just let the body respond on its own. And before we finish meditating, can think thoughts of goodwill, wishing may all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. And can open our eyes and do a short Dhamma discussion for the internet. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. So hope that this finds everybody well, wherever it might be. And this, I think, is my second week here at this kuti. I came down here from another monastery a little bit further up, and it's been a lovely experience. The people in this area are very lovely and have helped me out quite a lot. And so I was discussing with somebody about what it was like living here, and discussing with them about alms round. And they had a bunch of different questions about alms round. So thought to do just a kind of a general kind of Dhamma discussion about what alms round is like for Buddhist monks. I guess especially here in Sri Lanka, but anywhere. Mainly just describe a little bit about alms round. And so when the Buddha, he went back to visit his family in Kapilavatthu, was requested by his father, and his father sent a messenger. I think the messenger even ordained, and then they went back to Kapilavatthu. And the Buddha was going for alms round, and his father said, "Nobody in our lineage has ever begged for food." And the Buddha said, basically, that he's part of a noble lineage, and this is what people in the noble lineage do. They call it Arya Vamsa. And so this tradition of Pindapata is one coming from the Buddha. It was around in religions other than the Buddha's and predates the Buddha. But in Buddhism, as followers of the Buddha set the example, going for alms round basically all the time, basically until the end of his life. He would also accept meal invitations. So when a monk goes for alms round in the canon, the traditional way that they do it is they take a bowl and they go walk into a house, compound. So here in Sri Lanka is probably closest to what it's like in the time of the Buddha. And, closest that I've seen anyway, in that the houses sometimes have these walls, but when people wake up, they usually open their doors and leave them open. Once they're ready to receive visitors, or once it's okay for people to come by, they open the door and leave it open. And they open the gate. And so that usually happens maybe like 6:30 or so. And so if one is walking around and one sees a gate open and a door open, then one can walk into the gate, and basically then one just stands. And when people come out, they all, in Sri Lanka, they know what you're doing. So they usually see you. And sometimes if you're in an area where there's not many monks, or nobody's going alms round, then they might be a little surprised, and they'll usually kind of run. They drop whatever they're doing. So if they have like a broom or something, they'll drop the broom and sometimes even throw it down and then run. And they get some alms food for you. Usually almost every house tries to give something, like even if it's like a few crackers, or if they've been cooking that morning, then they'll give you whatever they've been cooking, like rice and maybe a curry or two. And so basically one waits and sees the reaction. If they drop what they're doing and go into the house, then you get the feeling, okay, they want to give. And sometimes they may kind of, if they don't have anything to give, they haven't prepared any dana, then they'll sometimes come to you and bow and say, we haven't cooked yet. And so one just keeps going from house to house in this way until one feels that one has enough food. And one can, if one is getting offered quite a lot of rice, and one can sometimes put one's hand over the bowl to say, okay, I've got enough. Or something like this, and they'll give whatever else they had to bring. But this tradition, basically what it does is it makes it so that, number one, that a monk he doesn't choose so much what food that he gets. It's kind of the people choose. And generally, in a country like Sri Lanka, kind of a long-time Buddhist country, the people tend to know that monks need these various things in their diet. So you usually get a balanced meal. Usually you get kind of, the main thing people give is rice and curries. And the curries they give are usually quite nutritious. It's kind of, usually maybe they have this cut up vegetable dish, so that's quite nutritious. And they also have dal, which is kind of protein. So I think that dal mixed with the rice forms a complete protein. Then they also eat a lot of this textured vegetable protein, and they have this kind of very, I don't know what it's called, bitter gourd. Bitter, it's kind of very small bitter foods, but they're very kind of high nutrition. So it's enough to survive, live a healthy life, eating the Pindapata food. And then sometimes they'll also give like cookies or something, or maybe like a few bananas, and very rarely one might get like a papaya, or more frequently mango, but rarely papaya. And so sometimes one comes back with these fruits too. And then from time to time, especially if one is walking down the road for a long distance, people might offer tea, or they might, from time to time, rarely offer like a milk drink or something like this from a shop, or like a pop from a shop. So all in all, this Pindapata, one tends to get, it's not like if one was at a table and dishing out food on one's own, but one tends to get enough to survive, especially in a country like Sri Lanka where people know what one is doing. And in more recent times in the Thai forest tradition, this practice of Pindapat got emphasized quite a lot. It's actually one of what the Buddha calls a Dhutanga. It's kind of the Dhutanga Vata is one of the ascetic practices allowed and recommended by the Buddha, is the one to go on alms round every single day. And the importance of this got really emphasized in the Thai forest tradition. So one of the things that it does for a monk is when he goes on alms round, in addition to not being able to choose his food, he's also a beggar. So it's a respectable beggar. In Asian Buddhist countries, people are happy when a monk goes on alms round. And when they see them, they usually get very happy, and sometimes even request them to come back on different days. Usually you go for 2 or 3 days. Actually, in Thailand, sometimes when the monks are going alms round in different routes, if there's not enough monks and a route gets closed, then people complain that the monks aren't going. So a monk is a beggar, but also this beggar with this lovely relationship. So what it does is it keeps up this samana ideal, this kind of ideal that a monk is a person who's renounced worldly attachments. So it has the practical effect of limiting a monk's desire on food. It also helps generate this perception in the mind of a monk that he's somebody, who's basically homeless. He's like a homeless beggar. And so whatever people give him, then he will accept and eat that, more or less, if it's not bad for his health. And so this is another thing. The other thing is that it creates this relationship between monks and lay people. So monks can never be complete hermits. A monk has to every day receive food hand to hand from a lay person. But actually when one goes out into the village, then it actually creates even more of, I used to say, like an unspoken relationship. Kind of on Pindapata, monks aren't encouraged to speak. They're just encouraged to go and stand with their bowl, receive the food, and then leave. And to do it, most of it with eyes downcast, not looking at people. You can look at people, of course, maybe if there's something to say. But that's the standard, is basically to go eyes downcast, look up, and people receive the food and then go. So it's a relationship that's developed around the Dhamma. It's kind of the monk is going, people are offering alms, and it seems to give a kind of a good feeling for at least people who've been raised Buddhist to have a monk actually come to their house and do this. So this is the other thing. And another important aspect, one of the other important aspects of Pindapata is that basically so long as there's a culture of Pindapat, so long as people in a country know what Pindapata is, and a monk can have confidence that just with his bowl he can wander and get enough food for the day, What that basically does is it gives an opportunity for renewal in case there's ever declines in spiritual traditions or anything like this in Buddhism, because there's nobody who can really get a monopoly on controlling a monk's alms food. Okay, so long as that monk has his bowl, he can walk out and walk where he likes to go and get alms food, get enough food to eat. And wherever he goes, the Buddha gave 4 requisites. One of them is alms food, robes, shelter, which is at least the root of a tree, and medicine, which is at least rancid urine medicine. So as long as a monk can get those 4 things, then the Buddha instructs monks, at least at the ordination, that this is enough for them to make an effort in the holy life. So what that does is sometimes, over time, as in anything, there's always rises and falls. There's always rises and declines. But this tradition of alms round, so long as monks can get this basic requisite, it always allows for an opportunity for monks to strive for nibbana, more or less. And kind of one can, if there's a situation where people are controlling food, they can't hold a monk back from practicing meditation. They can't hold a monk back from keeping the Vinaya. Their ability to do this is very limited, so long as he has his begging bowl, so long as he has his robes, so long as he has the ability to go stay at the foot of a tree. Then he has enough. He has enough to practice for nibbana. And it was in that way, actually, that the Buddhist tradition started, basically. The Buddha living at the root of a tree and leading the way, more or less, in the early days of going for alms food. So this is a tradition that, coming down from the time of the Buddha, has been kept up until modern times, or has been kept up on and off, I guess you say, till modern times. But it's one of the ones that's very important. It's maybe what you call the basic tradition. So as a monk, you can usually tell if a place is such that you can go for alms and get enough food for the day, then it usually means that there's a good potential to practice in that area. It's not to say that if you can't do that in an area, it means it's necessarily a bad area. But if that potential exists there, it usually means that the people are happy enough to have a monk, that they'll support him in his efforts to practice, and are happy enough to support him with food, not requiring him not trying to manipulate him or do anything like this. So this is usually a good indication. So this practice of going for alms round is something that's an Aryavamsa. That's part of the traditions of the noble ones. It's one of the traditions that the Buddha said he was keeping. It's the tradition the Buddha said he was keeping when he was criticized by his father. Nobody in our lineage has ever gone for begging. And the Buddha says, well, he's part of the lineage of the noble ones. This tradition of alms round is part of the lineage of the noble ones. It's a tradition of the noble ones, I guess is the proper way to say it. And so long as this tradition is kept up, so long as this tradition is available, so long as it's possible to go, then this is a big foundation in allowing people to strive for nibbana. Okay, so leave that for reflection, and wishing everybody all the best wherever it might be, and all the blessings of Dhamma practice.